Today's video is all about teacher observations in New South Wales here in Australia. Welcome to another edition of Teaching Around the World. This is the tag series that was started by Nicholas from A Happy Teacher, A True Story, Alyssa from Emerging Educator, and myself, EJ Kafoople from Kafoople Land. This is the March edition, and here in Australia it's autumn. We've just started autumn. In New South Wales, in the public school system, teachers are required to have what's called a PDP, which is a performance and development plan for themselves. And within that PDP, we're supposed to have goals for ourselves and what we want to improve in our teaching. All teachers in New South Wales are now also required to be accredited through NESA. Ideally, when we have our observations, we're supposed to link what we want to improve with our PDP and also with the AITSL professional standards for teachers. So many acronyms. AITSL also has some really interesting documents on their professional development framework, which guide us through the process of being observed and evaluated and proceeding through our career. Teachers are supposed to be evaluated formally twice a year, but really in a healthy practice. Classroom teachers would have regular ongoing conversations with their supervisor, their head teacher. In my case, it's a head teacher, and that head teacher would be walking through the classroom and be very familiar with what's going on in their teachers' classrooms. To me, that is an observation, and that happens regularly, not just once or twice a year. With our official observations, it can actually be anybody who observes you. The classroom teacher needs to be comfortable with the person who is going to observe them so that they can be as authentic and natural as possible in the classroom. And the person who observes them must be negotiated with the classroom teacher. It can't be just, person X is going to observe you on X date. You must be ready. It's got to be a conversation, and it's got to be something that the classroom teacher is comfortable with, someone who the classroom teacher is comfortable with. So observations can be from peer to peer, from supervising teacher to classroom teacher, from classroom teacher to supervisor, and the idea is that all of us can learn through observing each other. So even somebody who is my superior, who might be observing me, could learn something that they could implement into their practice. So it's meant to be a really collegial process. Prior to the formal observation, ideally the classroom teacher and the observer should have a conversation about what that classroom teacher is trying to improve, even what standards they want to meet or that they're working towards, even maybe something they want to trial and get the other person's opinion on and input on. During the observation process now, it's not really supposed to be anything like the olden days when an inspector would come and sit in the back of the room and write all these serious notes. It's meant to be more of an approach where there's just a visitor to the classroom. They may walk around the room chatting to the students. They may even participate in the lesson. They may just sit down and watch what's happening, but it's kind of a very open process. And what should happen in that pre-conversation is that the classroom teacher and the observer talk about what they each want to get out of the observation, so that it can be really productive use of time. Teachers are very busy, and there's no point putting on a performance or a show for a one-off situation that's not authentic and that won't impact the students' learning at all. So the focus really should be on the improvement of teaching practice and improvement of student learning. That pre-conversation really needs to contextualise the observer as well, so that they know what goals are trying to be reached, what outcomes, like learning outcomes, are trying to be achieved, and again, what the teacher wants to get out of the process of being observed. As soon as possible after the observation, the observer and the teacher should sit down and have another conversation, a post-observation conversation, where they discuss what happened. They talk about the goals and how they were met or how they could be met in the future. They should be given ongoing constructive feedback that can be actionable, stuff that they can do. It's not a judgment, it shouldn't be something to be feared by the classroom teacher who's being observed. Tenure can have a couple of meanings. So first of all, I want to talk about permanency. So in New South Wales, our Department of Education, which is the government body, actually employs us. We're employed by them. All of the public school teachers in New South Wales are employed by the Department of Education. I've talked in another video about how we have day-to-day casuals, how we have casuals who work on blocks, who have a contract, but then we also have permanent teachers. I'm a permanent teacher. And so a permanent teacher is employed permanently for the duration of their working career. In order to become a permanent teacher, you have to go through an interview process. There are basically 3 different ways to become a permanent teacher in New South Wales. Firstly, once you graduate and based on a vacancy and based on the subject area that is needed, after the interview process you may be appointed through the Department of Education. Another way is that there may have been a casual teacher filling a certain position or working in a certain capacity for some time, and the department may allow the principal to employ a person for that particular position. Then the other way to get permanency is through what we call merit selection, which is another process where you must apply in writing, you must address certain criteria, selection criteria, and then you will go through an interview process with a panel. For me, I received my permanency 3 years after graduation. I had been working casually on various blocks and some day-to-day casual as well, and just everything matched. There was a vacancy, it was where I wanted to go, and it matched my subject areas. So I got the phone call from the Department of Education, and I was given, I think it was 24 hours to accept or decline, and the rest is history. That was in 2000, year 2000. Tenure can also sometimes mean perks, perks of, I guess, ways to be rewarded for long-term service, I suppose. And the main one for us is long service leave. So teachers can access long service leave after 7 years of employment with the department, and that's on a pro rata basis. And so after 10 years you can access your full long service leave. We get approximately 2 weeks of long service leave per year, which is accumulative. The role that observations play in our long-term career is mostly professional development and looking at how we can grow and learn and improve and work with other colleagues to constantly improve our practice and to do what we're employed to do, which is improve the learning outcomes of our students. I'm going to put a link under this video directing you to some of the other fantastic videos. It's really, really interesting seeing what happens in other countries and in other areas around the world. I do want to mention that I watched Mag's video and I really loved how she talked about the fact that it's okay to film yourself, and when you're teaching. I think that's a really great way. It's not even to do with your formal observations necessarily, and just to see what you actually do when you're up the front of the classroom and think about ways that you can, what other things that you could try that might be a little bit different. Really, I've done that myself and it's very interesting. Feel free to join in on this tag with us. You can answer the questions at any time. Generally, we try to release our videos on the 1st of the month, but if you've done a video after the fact and you want me to have a look at it, please tell me in the comments, put it below this video, and I will definitely go and check out your video, because I do find it so interesting to find out about other teachers in other parts of the world. I've also got a couple of playlists of some of the different months, some of the different episodes, so I've just chucked everybody's video into some playlists. If you want to go through and have a watch of those, that might be a good idea. I'll put the playlist links under this video as well. But apart from that, I shall see you in April for our next Teaching Around the World Tag series episode. Just thought I'd quickly show you my little setup here. This is where I film my Teaching Around the World videos. So this is where I sit on that white chair, and I put my tripod on this stump here. That's my notebook, where I just have my notes. And as you can see, my ferns are looking really nice and lush at the moment and very full. And here is my liquid amber tree, which is also looking nice and vivid green and very full. And it's autumn now, so probably in about 6 weeks to 8 weeks, the leaves will turn colour and start to fall. But really, in a healthy practice, I think that classroom teachers would have an ongoing communication, would have an ongoing conversation with their supervisor, their head teacher. Make sure that you check out it. Make sure that